because I think like white belt, you start accumulating technique and you go up, up, up. And then when you get to black belt, you should start eliminating technique. And so I feel like I was kind of late to that curve. And so I had my collection late. So I'd say that it was like the biggest growth in my career was the few specific years that I was training with Eddie. I mean, it's just nuts, like how much technique that guy has. Like if you've never trained with him, it's insane. His brain it's wild. His ability to break down technique and innovate and take something and just kind of flip it on its head and do it different. And it really changed me. And it's so crazy because now I have Henry and I'm just stripping my game down now to basically nothing. Like if I can tap you with pressure and not submission, to me, that's better, And so I think that curve, it usually happens blue purple. People are trying to figure out what their game is going to be. Mm-hmm. But I was rigidly told what my game was going to be all the way to brown belt. So I didn't experience that until I met Eddie. And then now that I'm getting older, I'm really trying to eliminate a lot of technique and just kind of use like sticky pressure and stuff.
That's interesting. Yeah. It's interesting how that works because it's, I think a lot of times people get, at least, for me, like talking to people like through the internet stuff, it's like one of the big issues is like people always get overwhelmed by information. There's just so much stuff out there it wasn't like that when we were coming up, right? 20 years ago, you didn't have the sheer amount of information. If you wanted something, you maybe buy an instructional series or a book, but you didn't have YouTube or anything like that. And, but I think the problem is that most people don't realize it. Like you don't need most of it. Like, I mean, because again, like when you're talking about your game, like you dabble with a lot of stuff, but once you actually find like something that's kind of good for you, that works for you, it's like you go all in on that area, that specific technique, whatever, and you like dive into that. And really, I mean, that's like, that ends up creating like really 5 specific things. Like you have obviously your takedown, and that's going to be a specific area, maybe a few techniques there. You have your guard passing, right? Which, you don't need a ton of different guard pass. You could have a couple that chain together, that work together, a system, if you will. Your sweeps, and then like your submissions. I mean, it's a handful of things that you got to be really good with. And that makes a pretty good, solid game that you can be effective with.
Yeah. It's strange, I'm really lucky actually, because, being exposed to a guy like Eddie, and he's just constantly pushing. I remember when leg locks started coming in, because I was lucky enough that when Victor Davila and Eddie Bravo started EBI, Victor asked me to do the matchmaking and the event coordination. So for the first 10, I was doing all the matchmaking. So I was there in the beginning. And Gary Tonin back in EBI 1, he was finishing people with rear naked chokes. He was still the lion killer at that point.
Yeah.
And then around like 2 or 3 leg locks started coming in really heavy. And I remember Eddie pulling us all aside, and he was like, all right, boys, this is it. Like, we got to get deep into the leg locks, this is the hole in everybody's game. And this is, and I mean, shit, to be honest, man, 10th Planet's still on that mission. Like, they're still deep into leg locks. And, it's just cool as an organization, Eddie's leadership and ability. I mean, leg locks are not part of the rubber guard or the lockdown, right, or like twister systems and stuff like that. And it was not even a question from the leader. It was like, okay, we got to dive into these. It's just crazy. The leadership and the ability to adapt and adjust and take new things that work. It's nuts. And he taught me a lot just through, like, not even through technique, but just watching him move and how he runs the guys, and I always appreciated that from him.